great to see everyone here, especially all of our guests. And we are very excited about today's program. So we will start as usual with the Pledge of Allegiance. And Amy Erkenbrack, would you please do us the honor of leading us in that, please?
Thank you, Ken. Please join me. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Amy. And now our invocation from His Honor, Doug Anderson. Would you please help us with that?
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a bit of background before I enter into a moment of prayer. As we know, this past couple of months has been very challenging. I have the privilege to serve as the mayor of the city of Lakeville here in Minnesota. And we've got this invisible opponent that we've been fighting, and that's created a lot of challenges for us, particularly our business community, as well as from a mental health standpoint. And many of you may know, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And mental health is a passion of mine. My sister has significant mental health issues. And just a quick little reminder, 1 in 5 US adults experience mental illness each year. We might see 1 in 25 adults experience serious mental illness. And it's a real problem across our country. Suicide is the second leading cause of death in people aged 10 to 34. And one of the things that I'm really proud of at this point, at least in the city of Lakeville, we have really had a focus these last couple of months on mental health. As people are isolated, businesses are challenged, we might have health fears and all kinds of other feelings. We're trying to be present technologically as well as in other kinds of mediums to remind people during this month that you're not alone. And that's the theme of a lot of the advertisements and the advocacy groups as they look to fight the stigma of mental health and to provide support and educate around mental illness and how it impacts our families. So with that as a background, please join me this morning in prayer. Lord, we gather this morning as Rotarians from across our district to share time together, to learn together and to support each other. We strive to be examples of service above self to our communities. We particularly ask for strength and guidance as we continue to navigate through this unsettled time. And in the context of Mental Health Awareness Month, give us awareness of those around us who we should talk to, check in on, or provide help. Give us insight into ensuring that no one feels alone. Thank you for placing us in situations where we can be a listener, provide help to someone, or refer them to others, like a friend, a counselor, or maybe a pastor. We pray that no one is alone during this time. And in closing, many of us may be eating breakfast right now or having coffee. Whatever it might be, we are so grateful for the gift of the food that's in front of us and those that have prepared it. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate that. Well, as I said, I'd like to welcome all of our many guests. We've got people from throughout the district and even from other districts. So I greatly appreciate having everyone here. We're going to just a couple of reminders. This meeting is being recorded, so visually and audibly. So one of the things we like to do is kind of a best practice. If you're not speaking, have your speaker on mute down on the lower left-hand side of your toolbar. That kind of helps with the clarity and also helps with the bandwidth a little bit. I think we're going to change up our normal agenda this morning because of the interest in our speaker this morning. So I will basically move to announcements, and Happy Dollars will be after our program this morning. So with that, Kathy, do we still have some logins going on?
We can move forward. People are logging in as the program goes, so go ahead.
that is one of the advantages of being on a virtual meeting. People kind of drop in and out. So I just want to make sure we don't have a large number in the waiting room this morning. So as I said, thank you all for coming this morning. We feel truly delighted and excited this morning about our program. Our presenter, Mr. Michelangelo Caruso, is an accomplished author, speaker, business consultant, and consummate communicator. Those of us who've had the opportunity to work with Michael in various training and development events over the years have experienced his engaging style and his inspirational messaging, which is probably more important today than it is any other time. Michael's delivered thousands of presentations and keynotes around the world on subjects from leadership, selling, customer service. He's also the founder and the president of Edison House LLC, an international consulting firm specializing in corporate and personal improvement, whose clients include many of the top Fortune 500, as well as the National Institutes of Health and the United States Navy. His latest book is Work Hacks, is a collection of 300 plus ideas for speeding up career success, specifically updated for today's fast-paced and competitive work environment. He maintains a prolific profile, I might add, presence on social media, including his very successful and very popular Presents Like a Pro Facebook users group. He has also, I think, a very entertaining and very informative YouTube channel where you can see informative segments such as why are ants more productive than your work team, just as an example. So Michael's also a longtime Rotarian. He served in a number of roles, including being a past district governor, and he's currently this year the Rotary Zone 29 Public Image Coordinator. So is that enough, Michael? Good. Well, those of us that work with Michael have really learned to appreciate his engaging style and his humor, and I think you all will enjoy it this morning. So without any further ado, all the way from beautiful downtown Rochester Hills, Michigan, here is Michelangelo Caruso. It's all yours, Michael. And we need to take the mute. You're muted, Michael.
That was a fabulous introduction. Thank you so much, Ken. And that's what I need in my life, more pressure to perform. It's great to be with you. Thank you so much. I always enjoy my time with Rotarians. Ken, thank you for the invitation. Kathy, thank you for helping to organize. And Kathy, if you could help me kind of facilitate the chat with questions and maybe even post some of the links that I'm about to share, some of the quotable quotes so that they can stick in people's minds a little bit better. We're going to talk about something very, very important today, not only for Rotarians, but also for people who are in the business world, anybody that's in a member of society, and it's going to be especially important as we all fold back into regular life rhythms post-COVID-19. And that is the amazing power of first impressions and how critical they are to not only the quality of relationships, but also speeding up relationships so that you can get more enjoyment from life, you can help more people, and of course those people can figure out how you can help them. Before I start today, I want to acknowledge the passing of past Rotary International President Frank Devlin. I just read about it this morning. Frank was an early role model for me in Rotary. Some of you may remember when Frank was president and the Frank Talks books. And he was just a great guy. And whenever anybody passes like this, it's just a reminder to me that none of us are open-ended. And we all need to do our best with these first impressions and with life in general as we try to really make the most of life. So I want to talk about, and as I move into this first impressions, I want you to think about, give me a hands up or a signal if you're a business person of any kind. Raise your hand, give me a thumbs up. Because if you're a business person, you're worried or maybe concerned about converting prospects to clients, right? Give me a thumbs up if you're a patriot and you plan to vote in the upcoming election, because first impressions mean a lot in politics, right? Everybody's trying to get people to jump the fence or stay on their side of the fence so that they can win your vote in the fall. And so each presentation by a politician is a chance for another first impression. And also, if you're a Rotarian, and I suppose that's going to be almost everybody on the call, thumbs up. We know that we're interested in converting visitors to members. And now we're trying to do that online. So it's become extra challenging during these times to make really good first impressions. So I want to talk to you today about 5 things that you can do to improve first impressions in your world. These are very specific things. And we'd all like to think we do these things naturally, but the truth is we don't. We get distracted by other things. We get distracted by our own devices of our own creation. And you'll see in a second that you'll say to yourself, yeah, I know I should be doing that. It's a good reminder. It was the great philosopher Plato who said that we're never really learn anything new. We're just reminded of things that we already know. And maybe you're going to get a little bit of that today in the call. So the 5 things that we need to do when we are trying to make a good first impression. Number 1 is we need to make sure we avail ourselves to others. A quick example, we're all on a Zoom call today, dozens and dozens of us on this call. Those of you that greeted people in the chat or have spoken already, you're in a way, you're psychologically availing yourself to the group. Some of us would hang back and say, well, I don't want to interrupt. Other people are talking, or I'm okay in the back seat. I don't need to be in the driver's seat, and that's fine. But maybe you also didn't use the chat window just to say good morning. And that little engagement where you step closer to the other person is a really key distinction. And so what you want to do when you are in a group, in a gathering like this, is somehow avail yourself to the team. And you can do that on online meetings in chat or by speaking physically. And by the way, it's not too late. We're going to have a Q&A here at the end, and it will be time for you to maybe speak out and thank Ken for booking a good speaker today, or whatever that you want to say. It's not so important what you say, it's putting the message out there and availing yourself. So we do this physically through eye contact and often through proximity. If you reminisce way back about the times we used to get together at physical events, this idea of moving around the room to these different pods in the room and actually interrupting conversations that are happening, that's part of the availing yourself. If you just stand there and wait for people to come to approach you, that's not availing yourself. Walking into the room is not availing yourself. You've got to work the room once you get into it. And we know as Rotarians how important that is if we have visitors. I always poll clubs when I'm visiting. I'll find a visitor that's in the room and I'll say, can I ask you a question? And they go, yeah, sure. And I say, we have about 75 people here today. May I ask how many Rotarians have physically greeted you? And you can hear a pin drop as she answers that question, because the number is always much lower than we would like it to be. Maybe 7, 10% of the people in the room have physically greeted that visitor. And yet here she is among us, these visitors that we covet for new members. And only 7 of us, 10% of us, have physically greeted. So availing yourself is really, really important. And we're leading in now to the second strategy that I want to leave with you this morning, and that is that you have to reach out. In the old days, it used to be physically reaching out with a handshake. That may be modified. In the Eastern world, they've done bows and these types of things for forever. And maybe that will become more of what we do. Before COVID, it was that awkward elbow bump that so many of us did, and we'll probably see some of that going forward as well. I was really okay with just looking at you in the eye and smiling. I mean, I always thought that was a pretty cool greeting. But to do that, you got to really engage people. You got to find their eyes. And that can be challenging in a room of 75 people. It can be even harder at a pets training. I was supposed to do 5 pets for the training season, president-elect training sessions or seminars. A number of them got canceled, but there are 400 people at those events. So it can get really hard to work the cocktail hour with that many people walking around. The third strategy that I want to share with you is called smile through every doorway. When you smile every time you enter a room, people pick up a signal from you. We teach people in schools and churches not to judge, but hopefully you know that people still are judging you, and they judge you by 2 things. They judge by your nonverbal signals, and they judge by your verbal signals. And it's okay. I think judgment is okay. Personally, I use judgment almost every day. Thumbs up if you use judgment. Some of you are not using judgment, I notice. That's interesting. So this idea that we would use judgment, but not something called prejudgment, which is prejudice, right? That's wrong. That's not a very Rotarian or human thing to do. So we judge by signals that we receive, and people are judging us by the signals that we send. So when you smile as you walk into a room, you send a signal. I belong here. I'm comfortable. These are my people. I mean, I don't know. It comes across in a number of ways. But most people don't smile when they walk into a room. Most people enter a room with what behavioral psychologists refer to as a resting face or a neutral expression. It's the same expression that you'll have in your casket. So if you can imagine the Rotary Club gets together, the Rotary Club of Lakeville gets together, and maybe you're concerned about membership. But if everybody's walking in the room looking like a dead person, it's no wonder you're having trouble growing the club. So we need to find a way that we can walk into a room with that kind of confident smile, like, yeah, I own stock in this organization. I'm a key holder of the great Rotary Club of Lakeville, just to use this club as an example. Now, I know a number of you are sitting back and you're enjoying the presentation, hopefully, and you're thinking to yourself, you know, I don't really have these issues. I smile all the time. I'm a friendly person. I avail myself. I reach out and I smile. Michael, move on. All right, take a quick look at the screen, everybody, because we're going to do a screenshot. And in this hypothetical screenshot, look at the expressions on the screen right now. How many people are actually smiling? And there are different types of smiles. I'm not talking about going crazy, right? I had Invisalign braces late in life, and I thought it was kind of important to get my teeth straight, just to keep my bite organized and all that stuff. And I learned an expression called the social six. The orthodontist is trying to get the top 6 teeth of a smile sorted out, because that's what everybody sees. It's called the social 6. And I'm like, well, I want the social 10, man. Work that out for me, right? 6 on top, 4 on the bottom, right? But this kind of smile is sociopathic under certain conditions, you know? You just sit down and walk around all day doing this. It's not natural. But there are different types of smiles. If you just do crow's feet and a little turn up here of the upper, you know, the corners of the mouth, right? I call it the drunken nod. Do it with me. Just turn up the little thing and a little crow's feet and just nod at me like this. Like you know something I don't know. You see, that's pretty cool. And I will tell you as a speaker, if I see people in the audience holding a pen and just nodding like this at me, I gravitate toward those people, man. I'm like, we're connecting. But if you've ever had the pleasure of speaking at a Rotary function or any kind of function, most people in the audience just staring at you, you know, waiting for you to do some magic tricks, you know. So there are all kinds of ways that you can lever these techniques in your world, and I just know that you can be more successful at it. The 4th technique I want to share with you today is the power of the nod or the affirmation, right? Now the nod, a lot of people worry that the nod is a sign of agreement, so that if you heard maybe somebody in front of the room that was delivering a message that you didn't care for or didn't agree with, that the nod would somehow, you would be complicit in something that you don't agree with. And I think of the nod differently. I think of the nod like, I understand what you're saying. You see, I understand what you're saying, and I appreciate what you're saying. I may not agree with what you're saying, but I understand what you're saying. And I think this helps me connect with more people than the average bear, because I'm not stingy about that head nod, you know. I'm with you, you know. Somebody will tell me how bad the weather's been. This is a very typical conversation. You meet somebody, oh yeah, it's raining, been raining for 4 days, and you know, I wish I could see some sunshine, and when's spring gonna come, right? And I nod and I nod and I nod. And I'm thinking to myself the whole time, I take my weather with me. I'm not struggling with the rain at all. The farmers need the rain. We need rain for crops. Everything balances out, right? And just because you're upset about the weather, it doesn't mean I'm necessarily going there with you. Now, you may leave that conversation thinking I agreed with you completely. And that's good because we connected like ET, if that's how you feel. But I didn't argue with you about whether or not the weather was good. I didn't feel the need, and I didn't extend that rather non-nutritious conversation. I just said, okay, you know, you're unhappy with the weather. I get it, right? And so these are little things that we can do to connect with people in that short few minutes, seconds really, of the first impression. When I announce the formal title of this talk, it's often just the first 15 seconds, because the first 15 seconds is so critical in the tone and timbre and the quality of a lot of relationships. So the fifth technique that I want to share with you, and let's review the first four. And Kathy, if you want to type these into chat, maybe you're already doing that. I'm kind of focused right now on the presentation. But the first technique is to avail yourself. The second technique is to be sure that you reach out. So the first one's kind of like showing up, and the second one is actual engagement. You have to have both of those things. And like I said, a lot of people, they give up. It's too much work for them. But I think there are huge rewards if you can hang in there. Number three is this idea of smiling as you walk into the room, this what Ben Franklin called a cheerful countenance, right? That you're walking in as if you belong in this place, or that you're really glad to be here, and it really shows in every step that you take. The fourth one is the head nod, which is a sign of affirmation or understanding. And the fifth one that I want to share with you is this setup for next time, right? So I've got this little pet peeve I've had for a long time. I never actually say goodbye to people, even if we're saying goodbye. I always say something like, I'll see you next time, or I'll see you on May 15th, or I'll see you next Tuesday at our Rotary meeting, because there's always a next time. You see, I feel like once I've connected with you, I'll never say goodbye to you again, either mentally, intellectually, or maybe spiritually, right? We never actually say goodbye. It's just until next time. And I think of this kind of like the difference between checkers and chess, right? Because in checkers, which most people, by the way, know how to play, we only think one or two moves ahead. It's not very strategic. I'm in the moment, and then I'm done with that moment. But people who play chess, think about this now with regard to relationships. People who play chess, they're always thinking 5 moves ahead, 6 moves ahead. What happens after this? What project are we going to work on together? What avenue of service will we be involved with? What next big conference are our paths going to cross again? Maybe you like my message and you're thinking that my message might be good for your work team. Maybe that's our next step of our relationship, right? So that's one of the great things about Rotary is once you meet a Rotarian, and wherever they are in the world, that the idea is we're on this converging path, and we're eventually going to fly into each other's airspace again sometime. I love it. So a few more things before we line up some Q&A. If you have some questions, please type them into chat, and Kathy will get them all teed up. When I'm with people, I ask questions in a 5-to-1 ratio, which is really interesting because a lot of times, and Ken was very nice to me today, maybe my reputation has preceded me a little bit, and people are really interested in me or my lifestyle, or the redhead, Renee Pothidis, who we traveled together quite a bit. She's also a Rotarian, past president of the Troy Rotary Club last year, by the way. Platinum honors for the President's citation. This lady is a fireball. So people would ask about us, and I try to hold back on information about myself because I'm more interested in you, right? And so for that reason, I ask questions in what's called a 5-to-1 ratio. So I'll ask 5 questions of you for every question you ask of me. And I don't try to treat it like an interrogation or 20 questions, but I'll learn a lot about you in a very short period of time. And this is an old slogan I've been honoring for a long time. First be interested, and then be interesting. First be interested, and then be interesting. That's what I think is really important. Soon we'll be in networking environments where we're again in cocktail hours, Chamber of Commerce functions, Rotary meetings, all these types of things. I want to remind you that when you're, quote, networking and working the room, that networking is more about the other person than it is about you, right? Same thing, ask more questions of the other person than they're asking of you. So these are some of the strategies that we use. If you'd like to stay connected with me moving forward, I want to turn you on to 2 Facebook pages that I run. They're both free. One is called Get the Word Out Now, and this is for anybody that wants to grow their Rotary Club, right? This is all about marketing. So it's about growing your club, raising more money, and getting attention for the greatest service organization in the world. And unlike other Rotary Facebook groups, we're not just dropping content to it. You know, I call it, it's like a bulletin board site, you know, where people, they post what we're having chicken on Tuesday at the meeting. We don't do that. We're talking about high-end strategies that pay dividends to your club. So it's a very engaged and deep dive into various marketing strategies. It's called Get the Word Out Now. You're all welcome to join. If you do speaking of any kind, especially if you're speaking for Rotary, we need really good presenters. And so I started a Facebook group called Present Like a Pro, also a free group that you can join. And we share presentation tips, speaking tips. There are a lot of salespeople in this group because salespeople work on commission. The quality of their presentations, thank you, Ken. The quality of their presentations determines which schools their kids go to. So presentations are really important to a lot of people. If you're a leader of any kind, you want to belong to that group. Special shout out to Dan Stanley, who is a graduate of my online Present Like a Pro course. And he's just been a fantastic student. He's like a sponge soaking up all of these. And he wanted to really do a good job as club president this year. And of course, they host this big ass music festival where 100,000 people come into Prior Lake. And he has to get on stage. And I think between you and I, Dan might have been terrified to get on stage, at least in the early stages, but he's been fine. I hope this presentation has been useful to you. I want to take some questions. We can chat about various aspects of these things that we talked about today and how you might improve them. I'm especially interested in people who think you cannot do any of the things that I suggested today, because it's just not true. And we can talk about that. I'll turn it over to Ken or Kathy or whoever wants to help moderate the Q&A.
Thanks, Michael. Kathy, do we have some Q&A? Do we have some questions?
We do. We have a question from Cheryl Morton. Cheryl wants to know, what are the 3 good introductory questions to ask upon meeting someone new?
Fabulous. So let me share 3 questions you shouldn't be asking. I never ask questions like, did you get here okay? Because if you're here, I figure you must have got here okay. I never ask how traffic was. And I never ask like innocuous questions. Like, I don't want to talk to you about the score of the football game last night. That's not nutritious for either of us. There's going to be another big game next week. So I'll ask you real questions. Like, as a speaker, when I walk into a room, I'll say, what brings you to the program today? Because this is helping me understand who's in my audience, right? When I was district governor in 16-17, my favorite question to ask Rotarians was not what club are you in, not how long have you been in Rotary. It's not useful information. I asked, what do you do for a living? Or what are you retired from, if they were a person of a certain age? And the reason I asked that was I could find out instantly, within 2 seconds, what they were probably really good at. Because if they spent their career in sales, I'm talking to a marketing person. I'm talking to a people person. If they spent their career in administration, I'm talking to a spreadsheet person, right? If they were in banking, I'm talking to a potential club treasurer, right? I'm talking to people who have numeracy skills. And so I tried to find out, what is it that you're really good at? Or another one of my favorite questions is, what do you do for fun? You'd be surprised how many people stumble with that question. Fun? Fun? Well, let me think. Those people aren't any fun. What else you have, Kathy?
Deb Nygaard from Roseville wants to know, how can we encourage every current member to be a good host to visitors and guests?
Well, I've been using this little catchphrase. I think you need a soundbite to kind of get inside their head a little bit. And I say, every Rotarian should physically greet every guest. Now, this was pre-COVID, but you know what I'm talking about here is the handshake, right? That if you physically approach the visitor to the club and shake their hand, I mean, imagine that. Think about this. Some of the people that visit Rotary, they're looking for a service organization to belong to. They're going to go check out the Optimist. They're looking at Kiwanis. They're looking at Knights of Columbus, right? But if they come to Rotary and 3/4 of the people in the room physically walk up to them and greet them, they're joining Rotary, man. Nobody's touching that kind of a greeting. Now, you could factor out the physical thing because I know you're all in the COVID mentality right now. I don't think it's going to go away. I think we're going to be back to it once this thing subsides. We're going to be more careful about hand washing and that sort of thing. But I think the important thing is to actually approach the person. Hey, how are you? My name's Michael. Where are you from? Or what do you do for work? Or what brings you here today? If you could get even 30 people, 20 people in your club to do that with every visitor, I think membership would go way up.
Great. And do we have any other questions? Feel free to unmute yourself or put it in the chat box.
Kathy Smith here. Michael, I would just ask, not so much Rotary related, but from a sales standpoint, how would you encourage salesmen that have to do cold calling to, do you have some hints for how they can connect when they're making sales calls over the phone or over a Zoom call, especially when they're kind of cold calling in this environment today where they can't come in and have a physical presence?
Yeah, 100%. So I think if you're selling, people today are very sophisticated, Kathy or Catherine. It says Catherine on the screen. I think people are very sophisticated. And I think if you don't want to get treated like a salesperson, you have to stop acting like one. And that means no more sales speak. Every salesperson, when they call, they go, hello, Mr. Caruso, do you have a minute to talk? And right away, it's a salesperson, right? Or thank you for taking my call. Nobody says that except salespeople. So stop flagging yourself as a salesperson is my first tip. Look, in the old days, traveling salespeople used to bring their valise, you know, the encyclopedia, the vacuum cleaner, whatever, and they would knock on the door of the house. Remember? Maybe some of you don't remember this. But what door did they come to, the traveling salesperson? They always knocked on the same door.
Front door.
The front door, because that's where company comes. But friends and family don't come in the front door. What door do they come in?
Back door, side door.
That's right. And that's where you want to come in as a salesperson. So I never come in like I'm trying to sell. I'm coming in like during COVID, I was making cold calls myself, or I was returning calls to people, or I was trying to sell people on, you know, whatever. And I never asked them about business, and I never pitched myself as a business person. My very first question was, how are you and your family? Are you safe? Is anyone in your house sick? What are you hearing about this? How are you taking care of your kids? And they start yapping because I'm coming in the side door. Salespeople have an automatically adversarial relationship with prospects. We need to be advocates. We need to come in the advocate door. Does that help, Kathy?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. What do you sell, Kathy?
I'm in the roofing business, and I asked the question for some of our salespeople who are struggling right now, and I'm going to send them the link so that they can hear all of the things you started with, but also the answer to that question. So thank you very much.
Here's a bonus tip for everybody. It's another way to come in the side door is to use LinkedIn strategically. So a lot of people, salespeople, they go to LinkedIn and they go, hey, I want to connect with you because I sell such and such, and I know you buy such and such. That's their opening message. I'm a salesperson, right? And so what I do is when I friend people, and it's not because I'm always selling, because I'm not, but I connect with them. I don't tell them I don't even tell them I'm a speaker, because they're going to click on my profile and find that out pretty quickly. I give them a compliment. I say, hey, Henry, I hear great things about you and your company. Thanks for keeping the bar high. And this guy goes, I mean, just think about this. He goes, here's this guy I never heard of, and he's complimenting me. I accept the compliment. Who is he? And then they check my profile. And now I'm already in the side door before he even understands what happened. And by the way, I never use my powers for evil. You know, I'm just trying to be a good guy first. And then if we have something in common, that'll happen more organically. There you go, Kathy.
Yeah, I would just comment, Michael. I think, you know, there's been a movement, I would say, probably particularly in the last 10 years, when you hear about relationship selling. You know, You got to sell yourself, establish the relationship first, and not be leading with whatever your product or service is, especially today. I can't imagine trying to get into a cold call to a number of these organizations. I mean, like we were talking this morning, you said you've had a number of Zoom invitations. I can't imagine the LinkedIn and the emails just are even more intense these days, depending on the segment that you're in.
Yeah, and people are going to be trying to make up for lost time, so they're going to try to sell even faster. And I don't think salespeople should try to sell faster. I think they should try to sell slower, because when you sell slower, the roots will go deeper. They'll understand your proposition better. You'll understand them better. A quick example, guys. We go into these presentations and we think to ourselves, I've got a 35 slide PowerPoint presentation, 30 slides too many, by the way. And since we only have an hour and 2 minutes a slide, I'm going to eat up the whole hour. I've got to start that presentation in minute 2. What did I just skip? All the get to know, all of the questions about your current vendor, all of the figuring out your pain points and what you need the most. Also, I could give my own 35 slide PowerPoint presentation. It doesn't make any sense to me. So when I do sales training, this is the kind of approach that I take. But I think at its base, it's just relationships, don't you?
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, well, I was just talking to a member recently about when I was working in the corporate world, we got to the point where people, we called it the UGG factor. The UGG factor. Somebody would come in the morning. We'd be all gathered around a corporate table. Somebody would bring up their PowerPoint, and down at the bottom, if you're looking at PowerPoint before it goes into presentation mode, it always says how many slides are there. And if somebody saw, well, there were 65 slides, you could just hear around the room, they'd go, oh, because they knew what this meeting was going to be. It was going to be, you're going to sit, I'm going to present, you're going to listen, and then we're going to pretend that this was really a helpful exchange. So
yeah, and shouldn't it be better as a conversation where there's a give and take, and we're listening to each other, and we're solving problems in real time? Speaking of solving problems in real time, I see Tim Murphy's on the call. Tim's an old friend of mine, and we had the pleasure of working on the NC Pets together last year. It was one of the last events that happened before every governor in the union pulled the plug on large gatherings. And you're just lucky to have Tim Murphy. He's a fantastic Rotarian, a good person, and he really had his hands full during the COVID-19 /pets endeavor this year. Well done, Tim.
Michael, they don't have me. I'm 5950. but you're talking to the best club in 5960. There's no doubt in my mind, and it's great to see you this morning.
Thank you, sir. In that case, everybody on the call should wish you had Tim Murphy.
We always had a special place in our heart for Tim. We always say the day is complete when we have a Murphy in the house. So, Tim, I'm glad to have you here this morning. Thank you for coming.
Thanks, Kim.
One of the other things
we have a question from Marshall.
Okay.
Yeah, I was interested to know, Michael, whether you think it's important to recognize the newcomers and speakers when they arrive at the meeting. The reason I say that, we have 100 in our club approximately, and even though I've been a member a couple of years now, I still don't know everybody. I hate to go up and say hi and meet them and find that they've been a member 3 times longer than me.
Yeah.
I think it's important to recognize speakers and newcomers.
Yeah, 100%. And that time before the meeting is really critical. You know, it's really about time management. How many things can you get done before that bell rings? Because once the bell rings, you can't talk to anybody. So that I like clubs that have this thing called the rolling start, where they've got greeters and they've got these people. Malcolm Gladwell in his book The Tipping Point, he calls them sneezers, and connectors, these different people that work the room. And how great would it be to have 3 or 4 people in your great club walking around just introducing people to each other? Here, come over here, somebody I want you to meet. And that's their dedicated assignment before the meeting starts. How cool is that? And then they never forget they met that person at Lakeville Rotary. Pretty cool. Thank you, Marshall.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. There's there's different characteristics. I always say it's not good or bad. You know, if you've got 20 members in the club or you've got 100 members in the club, you know, the principles are the same. But the bigger you get, obviously, the more challenging it gets to be. But it's also more important to do that as well.
Yes.
Hey, Michael, Jim, Christian here in Lakeville. Say, quick question. I got 4 of the 5. The avail, reach out, smile through the doorway, and power of the nod and affirmation. What was number 5?
Number 5 was the next time. This is why I thought it would be good if we typed it into text. By the way, a little tip for all meeting organizers on Zoom. When you record the meeting, you can record an audio file on Zoom, you can record the video file, and you can record the text file, right? And you can have somebody expediting the meeting. It's a restaurant term. The expediter is the person who makes sure all of the plates look good when they leave the kitchen. Hardest working person in the restaurant. And then you can forward the text file to people too. So if you had, for example, a guest speaker, or Ken was laying out some key initiatives that are coming up and web pages that he wanted people to go to, the expediter drops those, does a copy paste from browser into the text file, and then you mail the text file to those people. The 5th one, Mr. Christian, was next time, this idea of chess versus checkers. What's happening after this? We just had you just gave me your business card. You look like an interesting person. Maybe I can help you. Maybe you can help me. You've got my card now. What's next? We always use this empty language like we should do lunch sometime. And it means nothing, right? But to say, I'm going to give you a call tomorrow and we can chat more about this problem that you're having. Would that be okay with you? And you nod your head yes. And now you've got groundwork for moving the relationship forward. Remember how I began the meeting?
There's intention.
Sorry?
There's intention.
100%.
Intentional. Yeah.
100%. I mean, think about like a stick moving down a stream. There's no intention. It's just moving with the flow. But what if you're swimming in the stream? You can move to certain banks. You can stay away from rocks. It's intentional. Absolutely.
Got it.
Those of you that joined the call late, I began by acknowledging the passing of past Rotary President, Rotary International President Frank Devlin. And, you know, we're not open-ended on our relationships, everybody. And if anything taught us that, it's COVID. Weird stuff happens all the time. We've got to make the most of our current time, helping people, reaching out, helping people understand the true value of the greatest service organization in the world, Rotary. And hopefully you've picked up some techniques today for doing just that.
Hey, Michael, Richard Henderson. I got a question. I don't know if you have an answer for this, but you know, in the industry I'm in, it's getting tougher and tougher, like sales-wise, to actually make connections and get through to people. And so much of everything is gravitating to email and sometimes even texting, where it's just tough to even get people on the phone. You know, how do you have any advice on that as far as even trying to get to move forward into, you know, meetings and relationships and that kind of thing when it's tough to even get through
Yeah, you got
a phone call?
100%, Richard. What industry are you in?
Publishing.
Yeah. And publishing is an interesting, I don't know what aspect of publishing, but it's sure changed a lot through the years. Now that everybody's a publisher, let's just start there. I think frequency is really key. You know, you can't give up. If it takes McDonald's 7.5 impressions to sell you an Egg McMuffin, and you're no better at marketing than McDonald's, you're going to have to reach out 7.5 times. I also like reaching out on different platforms. So I'll get you on LinkedIn. I'll find you on Instagram. I'll find you on Facebook. I've got your phone number. I've got your email. And I'll keep trying to be useful to you. Not available, useful. A tip. Entertaining. I use humor a lot. So maybe you can't find me useful as somebody who teaches presentation skills, but maybe you think I'm amusing or entertaining. Or maybe you like, you know, how I think and the things I post on Facebook. You're going to stay close to me. And I'm waiting for the time. Watch my fingers, everybody. I'm waiting for the time when you're going to need me, right? That's a long wait in the real estate business for people waiting to buy a house. It may be long in the publishing business too. You publish books, Richard? What are you publishing?
We just put a book out, do podcasting, and it's primarily around a magazine and small small business world. So yeah, we're try to be diversified.
All right. Well, it sounds like we have a bit of a Venn diagram there. Why don't you hit me up and we'll see what we can do something to get you some more attention. My website, everybody, is michaelangelocaruso.com. You can reach me through there. My personal cell number is 248-224-9667. 248-224-9667. And you see, there's another little example of me reaching out. You might, I saw some people flinch when I said my personal cell number. He's like, what? He's going to give it in a recorded version? Yeah, you know why? Because I'm open for business. Because I'm available to you, right? Because I'm interested in quality relationships and friendships. And I hope that comes out in everything that I do and say, right?
Michael, this is Jean Wakely.
Hi, Jean.
Is there anything wrong with a handwritten note? Glad to have met you. Good to see you. Looking forward to next time.
Bonus
Put it in the mail and have the mailman deliver it.
Bonus points. I mean, all those tricks. How about a FedEx package, Gene, that maybe cost you $12 to send, but they have to sign for that. And what's inside is special. Not that a handwritten note couldn't be special.
Right.
But there's a handwritten note and a thoughtful gift or a thoughtful impression. That's the kind of stuff, because Richard was asking about this, you got to break through the noise. You got to do stuff that other people aren't doing in order to get that attention. Some of you know I came up through the music business in a pop band called the Caruso Brothers, and we opened for acts like Rick Springfield and Corey Hart and Joan Jett. It was a constant battle. This was before the internet. A constant battle to distance ourselves from the other bands and do stuff that was different or extra clever. And I don't think even a Rotary Club should give up on those kinds of gimmicks. I don't think we should be all about gimmicks. But if you can do something that makes you stand out from other service clubs in the area, something that makes you extra psychologically attractive, I think that's going to be some special sauce. What else? I am pleased to be serving as incoming zone public image coordinator for Zone 28. And so we're always looking for talent. I don't think Minnesota's going with us into Canada on July 1st, but you're going to see me and my team hopefully doing some interesting, unusual things because, as you know, public image in North America could use a little bolstering to get ourselves going again. I want to ask Richard Henderson before we go, how do you get that fancy moving virtual background, Richard?
I have absolutely no idea. It showed up as a virtual background I could choose, and moving into summer, I thought we'd have a good winter contrast with the northern lights here.
I don't know what gallery y'all are using, but the only one that's moving right now in my big screen is Richard's, and that alone, you know, as my eyes keep moving over to his frame, you know, how did he do that? But
gotta fit into those 5 rules you have there somehow.
Yeah, well, that's one of the tricks, right? And women are really good at this when they're doing personal visits, because women are really good with, you know, wardrobe and color coordination and appointments and all that kind of stuff. Men are still sadly lacking in that category. But those little things that get people to pay attention, I think, are all amazing.
So see, Richard, you already have really good attention-getting material, which is always the first part of being an effective speaker. So,
yeah, I gotta move up from here and do something better next week.
Oh, look at that now! Marshall Cook is showing off.
Yeah,
you can put videos behind there too. That's pretty cool.
Is that a video, Marshall?
That's a video, yeah.
How did you do that?
It was a video that I had on my own camera, and you just load that into your virtual backgrounds and click on it. It's pretty easy.
There you go.
Interesting.
So see, even you learned something this morning, Michael.
Yeah, I love it.
Michael, we have another question from Monica in Bear County Sunrise. She wants to know, how do you say no?
Where is Monica? Monica, what's the problem? It seems like such a simple concept.
Where'd she go?
Are you there?
Yep, I'm here. I'm just sometimes you meet people and you just don't, you're not going to be able to provide services, or you don't want to. How do you say no to that and still maintain a relationship?
Well, I think people appreciate a good solid no, especially if you were going to waste their time or lead them down a path or not be the exact kind of person for them. I got a call a while back from a guy who wanted to hire me to speak. And, you know, I'm just learning about what he wants. I had this bunch of questions I usually ask, and he says, yeah, we'd like you to quote this same price, but we'd like you to stay for 3 days for that same price. And he says, I've got this content that I want you to present. And by the way, we're staying in the, you know, it's not the best part of town, but I think you'll find it's okay. You know, he kept saying things that were taking me to a place where I didn't think it was going to be a good gig for me. The part that really rubbed me was he wanted me to present his content. And at one point I said to him, you know, sir, the reason people usually hire me is because they like my content. They like my delivery. And he goes, I know, but we're not like that. I want you to present my content. And I said to him, and this hurts me sometimes because I'm a business, right? I'm thinking about cash flow and I'm a pleaser. I want to say yes. But you know what I told him? I said, well, sir, I'm afraid we're not really a good fit. I'm not the best speaker for you. And I waited. You could hear the silence on the other end, like, you're turning me down? You don't want the gig? You know, and I'm like, yeah, it doesn't sound like that we're a good fit. And he says, well, okay then. And at first I felt a little, you know, wobbly. And then I hung up and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just dodged a bullet. That would have been the worst gig ever. He doesn't need me. You understand that? Maybe not. I know salespeople, especially, you know, if business is coming in, we got to grab it. We got to make it do. Those people that you accept in that are not a good fit for you are going to be the biggest pain in the ass you ever worked with. Isn't that how it always works? Same thing's true with Rotary. You know, can we get everybody to agree that, you know, this person should be in the club? And we all say yes because we want to be nice people. And then they get in the club and they're nothing but problems. Worse, they're gone within 6 months. Why? Because it wasn't a good fit. We didn't have the courage to say, we're probably not a good fit for you. So it's a hard thing to do. It takes some discipline, but I think in the end, it's the right way to go.
I remember one time somebody wrote an article that said, when it's time, know when it's time to fire the customer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fire is harsh. I like the language, but fire is harsh sometimes. I just love that line, we're not a good fit. I mean, think about the person that's called to complain every week or every month of your relationship. They always have an issue. And so what I do, it doesn't happen to me very often because I work so hard to pre-qualify, but I start taking notes because whoever takes notes wins because you got a written record now. They're not keeping a record of how often they call you, but I'm keeping a record of how often you called to complain. And I say, you know, I'm looking at your record, Martin, and it looks like, you know, you've been pretty unhappy with our services overall. Isn't that true? And he goes, well, yeah, I have called to complain quite a bit. And I said, well, it doesn't sound like we're a good fit for you. Now, how can he deny it? He just told me he's called to complain a lot. And Martin leaves me faster than I can fire him. And I even offered to give him other people that can service him. Because I want Martin to be happy. And I can't make him happy. I mean, this is how I defend saying no and still being a good person, is that I can't make him happy. And by the way, another thing you got to come to grips with, everybody, is I'm not for everyone. I'm not. And your club's not for everyone. And you got to be okay with that. Thumbs up if you're okay with that. Lakeville Rotary is not for everyone. Like the one that gets me is that everybody says, well, we can't charge dues. Charging dues is mean. I'm like, what are you talking about? You got to charge dues. You got to create value. There's got to be value to the organization. We can get into debate sometime about how much dues to charge, but I think you have to charge dues if you're going to be worth something. But when you set up that premise that, well, we want Rotary to be free to everybody, well, then everybody can get in. And we've gone that route. In the early days, Rotary was really exclusive. And then we became inclusive, really inclusive, right? Where we want to let everybody in. And now we can't get the captains of industry to join Rotary anymore. We're having some troubles with this because they want to hang around with other captains of industry. Is this an issue in your club, maybe?
So is your suggestion, Michael, that the key to recruitment and retaining members is increase the dues, make them more expensive?
It's always a value proposition, right?
It is. It is.
Like, and Michael, this is Jean. I always hear at NC Pets and other district meetings, you know, about people leaving Rotary. How do you retain them? How do you keep them? How do you chain them to the chair? How do you make them pay their dues? How do you make them attend all the meetings? And why did they leave? You know, the big question, why did they leave? And in our club, we do try to do an exit interview, but what we found 99% of the time is they had to move out of town, so they can't come back, or they got a different position that doesn't allow them the affordability to have that lunch hours off and can't make it. So those are the two primary things, but then the last one is it wasn't a good fit. And then we get all worried about, well, what didn't we do right to make it fit for them? But it's not about that. It's about they're not, you know, it doesn't this doesn't embrace their value system. So
Yeah.
where another club might, maybe, you know, Chamber of Commerce might fit their value system. But sometimes the Rotary Club can help them find another organization in town that fits their needs, because you don't want to lose somebody who wants to do something.
Yeah, it's probably
So
a good
you can be a resource.
Yeah, this is probably a good way for us to wrap up as we look forward to, you know, post-COVID and moving back into physical meetings again, and always looking after our value proposition. All due respect to your exit surveys, Gene, I don't believe 1 million people have left Rotary in the last 10 years because they moved out of town. I don't believe it.
Yeah, but
I do believe that the value proposition that they accepted on the way into Rotary was no longer there a year later.
there you go.
Okay. Rotary sounded like a really good idea when they joined, but after a few months, it's not what they thought it was going to be. And that's partly on us, because we're either selling an illusion, or we're not clear on who we are as an organization. And that's why I urge every club to take what behavioral psychologists call the naked look in the mirror. And, you know, when you take all your clothes off and you just stand there and look at yourself and you go, what do we got?
Yeah.
You know, you got to be good. You got to be good with all of the negatives and the positives.
Right.
And the idea would be that you would deliver on that, what you ever promised people. I'll give you a quick example, then I'll turn it back to Ken. I know he's managing his clock here. I know of clubs that take 6 minutes, and I know because I timed one of them, 6 minutes to do a 50-50 drawing. You know what a 50-50 drawing is, everybody? Thumbs up if you know. It's when you draw a card out of the deck to win half of the money for the ticket, the money that was collected. It should take about 30 seconds to do a 50-50. This club took 6 minutes. Now, do you think you're going to get attorneys and accountants and business professionals who bill in 6-minute increments to come to Rotary and think that's a good use of their time? We got to do things faster. We have to change faster. We have to run meetings like a TV show. No dead air. Ken does a great job of that from what I see in this meeting today. But I think if we present that we're this efficient organization and we run lean and we're 5 stars with Charity Navigator, you know, and we're solving huge problems in the world, that we better look like that every week when we come to meet. And if we don't, the new members say, this wasn't really what I was hoping for. So I think it's worth looking at moving forward. I'm happy to do another visit. We can talk about any aspect of this, but I know that Ken's got some other fish he needs to fry today. Are there any other questions I can answer, Kathy, before we turn it back to Ken?
No, I think we're good. Thank you, Michael. We appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, everybody.
Thanks.
Thank you for all you do for Rotary, everybody. It's been my pleasure to be with you this morning, and I hope to see you physically sometime soon.
Thank you,
Well,
Michael.
Thank you, Michael. We would enjoy that. We would thoroughly. I think everybody would agree. You kind of met and exceeded our expectations today. So thank you for
Thank
that.
you.
Your last comment about business. I think I did a lot of training and development over the years when I was working. I think the hardest thing is to take young salespeople and convince them that not all business is created equal, and to take because they're prone to say yes all the time, and sometimes it is hard to say no. So, but anyway, thank you for that very enlightening talk. We enjoyed it. As we always do for our speakers that come in, we will make a contribution in your honor to our partner this year is 360 Communities. It's a local social support network we have here in Lakeville in Dakota County. So we will do that. And I would just suggest to everyone, if you are interested in working with Michael or in some of the more content that he has a very good website and a very good YouTube channel. So work with that, and he'll be happy to work with you. So, Michael, it's a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for. Glad we made the cut with the 20 Zoom meeting invitations that you had. And thanks to everybody, especially I noticed we had District Governor Paul Perez on the line this morning. Paul, would you like to say a few words?
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me, and always good to see so many friends that I've met over the years, including Michael. So glad we could meet virtually. Say hi to Renee. But I put in the chat box that we have our district's first open mic event tonight from 7 to 9. So join, and if you want to sing, I mean, you have 100 members. You have to have some singers in your club. So encourage everyone to join, and it should be a fun event. And I also put in there maybe the Caruso brothers would come out of retirement and sing a song, or no, not gonna, okay. Also, join. Many of you have joined our Friday features. Every Friday at 9 a.m. we have a Zoom. We started this very early after COVID. I think it was March 27th. And just had an idea on how we can stay engaged and bring some good topics to the district Rotarians and Rotaractors. And tomorrow we have Strive, and check out our calendar. We put everything on our calendar on our district, district5960.org, and invite everyone to join. So good to see everyone.
Same here, Paul. Always good to have you join, and especially when you can take a couple of items off of my announcement list. That just improves my my efficiency this morning. So thank you very much for that. Great to have you here. So for those of you that came this morning, again, a warm welcome. Our visitors especially, thank you for joining us this morning. Please come back and visit us anytime. That I think one of the things that we've been successful with, as we always put our announcements for our virtual meeting up on the district website, and I think that gives us a little bit more exposure, say, than not having it there. So thank you very much for all those who are visiting. One of the things, we'll move into some announcements and some quick happy dollars. The first announcement, I'd like to acknowledge we have one visitor with us this morning. Jill Hawkins, are you still on? Well, Jill joined us this morning. She is interested in joining Rotary. She is a potential new member. So
thank you very much, Ken.
Good. Glad to have you. Could you give us just a little brief background about yourself?
Sure. I am the new Director of Marketing at Kingsley Shores Senior Living in Lakeville, right off 35. And I've been in the marketing communication business for about 20 years, and I'm really excited. I live in Farmington, so I'm really excited to be south of the river in the community again. So thank you so much. I look forward to meeting you guys in person someday. From a distance, 6 feet away with a wave.
Well, great. We're glad to have you here. Welcome back to the community, and we hope you found this to be a informative and enlightening this morning. You couldn't have picked a better meeting to come to be your first visit. So,
Thank you.
thank you. Other announcements. We're going to have a Taste of Lakeville update and a meeting this morning, right, Richard? After this meeting, you're on mute, Richard.
All right. Yes, if you could please join us for a quick meeting afterward. This will be kind of an important Taste of Lakeville meeting because we've got to kind of war game some things here in that we have, we're not quite sure where we're at on reopening and when this phase 4 is going to reopen. There was the recent cancellation of the state fair, so there's some important issues we need to talk about as far as different options for Taste of Lakeville to fit into restrictions on the number of people we can have there. So please tune in on that, and if you have an input on this and you're not actually on the Taste of Lakeville teams, this would be an important discussion to be on. So we'll look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Just for everybody's information, Taste of Lakeville is our annual fundraiser, and it did not happen this year. It was supposed to have happened the 21st of May. We've now rescheduled for August 26th tentatively. So a lot of focus around and a lot of effort around this event that we have every year. It's just a little more challenging this year. So thank you, Richard. We'll be joining you then. Some of you have seen hopefully all of you have seen it, but I wanted to circle back around the announcement this week of the appointment of our first club marketing officer, and that is Rachel Marzon. She'll be assuming this role June 1. We're all excited about it. So if you haven't had a chance to reach out, then congratulate her. Please do so. And we're looking forward to a very successful launch of this new role, and especially Rachel's participation in it. So thank you, Rachel, for your help with that. And you also may have seen that we have a new speakers committee. Michael Cooper and Amy Erkenbrock will be starting this month and doing scheduling for speakers or taking suggestions for speakers. So you should have got an email that asked for suggestions. As far as I know, they have not received any email for suggestions. So if you have something in particular that you would like to recommend, please do so. So with that, is there any other announcements that we need to cover this morning before we call it a day? Yes, Mark Berger.
Hey, I'd just like to thank everybody, Lakeville, especially because you're hosting today, but last week's Shark Tank, for those that participated, Jim did a great job in representing Lakeville. And we do want to thank, on behalf of the Barron County Sunrise Rotary, for your contribution, and also to Roseville, Stillwater, and Prior Lake. So it was a fun event, and appreciate everybody's participation in allowing us to be one of the first Shark Tank guinea pigs. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark. Good point. I agree. I think it was from all viewpoints, as far as I can tell, everybody was pretty excited about it. It's very successful, and you always know it's a good event when people start talking about the next one and where they can, where we can multiply it. So just thank you for your efforts as well.
Thank you.
We're going to be quick this morning on happy dollars, but if anybody has any happy dollars this morning.
I have one, Ken.
Okay.
I have a happy dollar for my grandson, Alex, who last night via FaceTime video, we got to see him crawl for the first time.
Oh,
he's 7
cool.
months old.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, very cool.
That is
Thanks.
very cool. Yes, Richard, are you happy?
I happy dollar shout out to the Lakeville area veterans of foreign war. We're able to, our club was able to hit 13 cemeteries within the area and render honor to veterans that are interred there, and a lot of support throughout the community, including with the Boy Scouts putting flags up at each cemetery. So bravo Zulu there. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm sorry if that was a cheap shot.
I'm used to it.
Any other happy dollars this morning? I think we're just all happy because Michael was here this morning. Thanks again to Michael. Thanks again to all the visitors. And if nobody has any other announcements, we're especially honored to have the district governor, and also especially honored to have Tim Murphy with us this morning. So with that, if you'll join me in the four-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial